After I was recognized back to the Marquis residence, the fake daughter was about to return the betrothal to me. A child suddenly appeared at the door claiming kinship, saying he is my son from the countryside. Commentary: is this the male lead intentionally bringing a child to slander the supporting female character? Remarkably, the child does resemble the female supporting character a bit, who told her, a mere village woman, that the moment she came back she could snatch a marriage proposal. Does she deserve it? She even drugged the male lead to get him. Fortunately he found out, leaving her and the beggar in a compromising situation. But isn't this kid the villain's prodigal who ran away from home? He banged his head a few days ago and has been begging for food for several days. If someone saved this child, the villain would have to offer his entire fortune in thanks. Right, I swallowed the denial that was on the tip of my tongue, crouched down, and smiled as I reached out my hand to the child. Come on, call your maternal grandfather. The boy in front of me was only about 5 or 6 years old, standing there ineffectually, with his eyes fixed on me and his eye sockets reddening. Girl, do you not want me anymore? Everyone's gaze instantly fell on me. I instinctively wanted to deny it, but just before I could speak, a barrage of comments appeared before my eyes. This is the male lead intentionally bringing in a kid to smear the supporting female. Right, I have to say, he does kind of look like her, who told her to be a village woman coming back and immediately try to snatch someone's marriage. Does she deserve it? To win the male lead, she even drugged him. Thank goodness he found out and let her have a fling with the beggar, but isn't this child the villainous prodigal who ran away from home? He hit his head a few days ago and begged for food for several days. The male lead lied to him that the female supporting character was his mother, if someone saved this child, the villain would have to offer his entire fortune in thanks. Right, he started to deny it, the words turning on his tongue before he swallowed them back. In the main hall, the Marquis's face had already darkened. Gilan, have you already married in the countryside? Before I could speak, Madame, who was the first to exhale in relief, her tone even tinged with a hint of gladness. Fortunately it's not too late to discover this now. If you wait until she's married to the second prince, that would be a grave deception against the imperial family. I lowered my eyes and took the boy's hand. His hand was cold and trembling slightly. I fell some days ago and forgot some things. Perhaps it really did become a marriage. When the words fell, I saw the Marquis's brows relax by half an inch. The Marquise could not wait to chime in. If that's the case, then the match will still be handled by Ruoshua. She's not my biological daughter, but outwardly I can say Gilan is a relative's daughter. After all, Gilan, given your current situation, you can't marry the second prince anymore. I lowered my head and obediently said, all right. The Marquis nodded, as if he had finally dealt with a troublesome matter. Back in the room, I fetched a basin of water and squatted down to wipe the child's face. He held himself tense, staring at me without blinking, his eyes full of doubt and fear. I pretended not to notice and carefully wiped the dirt from his face. I don't remember if I got married or not, and I don't remember having a child. I am lying. Actually, I remember everything. I did not go through amnesia, nor did I get married, and certainly I did not have a child. Those days in the countryside, I remember every single one of them clearly. I lowered the handkerchief and looked at the boy's face revealed after being wiped clean. My heart gave a slight jolt. The brows and features did indeed resemble mine a little. The second prince really put in the effort, even the looks matched. What's your name? He mumbled his lips, his voice so soft it was almost inaudible. My name is Amo. Good name. Surely your father chose it, right? It was given to me by a friend who shared meals with me. I paused, then asked, I've forgotten what your father looks like. What about him? Amo was silent for a while, his voice muffled. I don't know, maybe he's dead, otherwise he would have come looking for us by now. That's a real shame, I sighed. I didn't let him live a good life. Luckily I only have to acknowledge a son, not a husband, otherwise I'm afraid I couldn't keep up the act. Amo lifted his head and glanced at me, then quickly lowered it again. In that instant, I seemed to see a trace of guilt in his eyes too. Danmu, how did the supporting female character end up being recognized as his? Did she really fall and lose her memory? Actually, this is easy to check. A simple inquiry would reveal whether she truly married and bore a child, but her parents refused to look into it at a glance, although this marriage concerns the supporting female, the male and female leads have been childhood sweethearts and were about to wed. Having a village woman cling to him is annoying, isn't it? The sky outside the window had grown dark. I reached out and gently touched Amo's hair. He stiffened for a moment, but didn't pull away. Amo, since you've called me mother, from today onward, you will live here. His eyes finally lit up for an instant. I spread out the quilt and patted the bed edge. Come, sleep with me tonight. Amo hesitated for a long time, and finally crawled up, lying on the farthest side from me, curling into a small ball. I blew out the candle in the darkness. I heard him whisper very softly, "Mother, I've finally found you." When I woke the next day, Amo was no longer in bed. I threw on a coat and opened the window, seeing him standing awkwardly in the yard, still holding a bowl. Concubine whose maid Lee Momo stood with her hands on her hips, shouting at the top of her lungs, "Young master, this is the Who residence, not the countryside. If you want something to eat, have someone bring it. Don't make yourself look like an uncivilized little beggar or be mistaken for a thief." Amo hunched his shoulders and hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry. I wanted to bring a bowl of porridge to mother." "You're clever, aren't you?" Nanny Lee snorted, reached out and pointed at the contents of his bowl. "You mistook bird's nest for porridge at a glance. Is that porridge?" "That's the young mistress's bird's nest. The young mistress hasn't even gotten up yet, and you've already started eating it." A few maidservants nearby covered their mouths and laughed, whispering to one another, "She's been raised in the countryside since childhood. The moment she sees something good her eyelids get thin." Exactly. His father must have been a lazy glutton too, which is how he raised a son like that. Amo was so hurt he was about to cry, his lips trembling, but he didn't contradict a single word. I saw it all, times. That spark of anger in my heart suddenly flared up. She turned and picked up the teapot on the table, then splashed it toward Aunt Lee and the several maids. The tea spilled all over their heads and faces, and Madame Lee looked the most pathetic, her chin still dripping with yellow. A few maidservants screamed and jumped aside, their sleeves more than half soaked. "Miss Lan," Nanny Lee wiped her face, her eyes bulging wide. "What are you doing?" I walked out and said, "I thought the Marquis's manor had chickens too," crowing at the crack of dawn. Her face alternated between pale and livid. "This is the Marquis's manor, not the countryside. Where would chickens come from?" I ignored her and reached out to Amo. "Amo, come here." Amo immediately ran to hide behind me, still holding that bowl of bird's nest. What were they just saying? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His eyes were full of hesitation. Old Nurse Lee hurriedly forced a smile and apologized. "It's nothing, just that the young master took the wrong thing. This old servant merely offered a few words. I didn't ask you." I softened my tone. "Amo, tell me, what did they say?" Amo bit his lip, and finally spoke. She said, "I'm an ill-bred little beggar, a thief. They also said that whenever I see something good my eyelids flutter, that my father is a lazy glutton, so his son is too." As he reached this, he suddenly looked up and asked me plaintively, "Daughter, is it because you gave birth to me that you can't marry the second prince, so they look down on you?" The yard fell silent all at once. Nanny Lee's face went pale as paper. The maidservants wished they could bury their heads in the ground. I've only been back for 3 days to outsiders. The Marquis's household only says I'm a relative of Madame's, temporarily staying at the residence. No one knows that Song Ruoshua is actually a fake heiress, the legitimate daughter that the Marquis household has raised for 20 years was switched in childhood on purpose. The second prince is currently the most likely to become the crown prince. The Marquis household naturally does not want to give up this opportunity to align with a high-status ally. If I reveal my lineage, the Empress Dowager certainly would not want the second prince to marry Song Ruoshua again. What she wants is to push her own niece to him as the principal consort. How could the second prince be willing to treat Song Ruoshua poorly? He is determined that she marry him while bearing the identity of the Marquis' legitimate daughter, so they cannot reveal my identity. I looked at Grandma Lee's pale face and laughed. Amy's asking you a question, why is no one answering? Old Nurse Lee's lips trembled for a long moment before she squeezed out, Miss Lan, your old servant didn't mean it like that. What do you mean? I don't care. I took the bowl of bird's nest that had already gone cold from Amy's hand and finished it in front of him, then hand the empty bowl back to Granny Lee. Tell your young lady, I drank this bird's nest. If she wants it, let her come ask me for it herself. After saying that, I took Amo by the hand and turned back into the room. Bullet screen. What is the supporting female character so angry about? If she dares to speak out, she should try it and see whether the Who family protects the heroine or protects her. One is the adopted daughter raised at the side for 20 years. The other is the biological daughter who grew up in the countryside since childhood, although I still think the foster family's grace is more important, the female supporting character is really calculating. Now she's snatching birds' nests. Once she sees the male lead, will she start snatching him as well? Amo suddenly whispered, Mother, that bird's nest, is it tasty? Generally, it's too sweet, he snorted, and after a while he asked, Mother, why did you stand up for me just now? Aren't you afraid they'll tell on you? Amo, remember this, in the future, whoever says you can't do it, you just let her come and tell me. My wife, I'm strong, I can split wood with one chop. If it comes to splitting people, that's even easier. Granny Lee and the others heard this and scattered in fright with their tails between their legs. Bullet comments, I like the supporting actress's temper, she should splash them. A dog who looks down on others, upstairs, you freak, get out, this is a steadfast pro-male and female leads zone. To the point, Amu is still very thoughtful. I also want a well-behaved son like him for after breakfast. Mrs., who indeed called me to the front hall when I led Amu inside, she scanned him up and down obviously. Granny Lee tattled, Jilan. The Marquis's manor has its own rules. This child's bloodline is poor, and he can't handle himself properly. Since you've acknowledged him, you should discipline him well, so as not to cause an even bigger joke in the future. Amo's hand stiffened in my palm. I tightened my grip on his hand. Madam, I spent 20 years in the countryside. I was raised that way from childhood. Even if Amo has faults, it's because I taught him. Lady whose face sank slightly, just as she was about to speak. There was a sudden announcement at the door that the second prince had arrived. Song Ruoshua had been sitting quietly beside her, but when she heard those 3 words she quickly tugged at Madame Hu's sleeve. Madame Hu immediately put on a smile. Well, let's forget about what happened today. You may go downstairs now. I didn't move. Bullet comments, here we go, here we go. The female supporting character is about to see the male lead's face, regret it on the spot, and pounce on him saying she's the legitimate daughter of the Marquis's household and his fiancé, but what he doesn't know is that the male lead already knew her identity long ago, is the male lead here to take the female lead to the lake? The young couple is really sweet. Song Ruoshua saw I hadn't left and seemed a little uneasy. She spoke up first. Sister, forget about the bird's nest. If you like it, you can have all my bird's nest from now on. A voice sounded at the doorway. What bird's nest? The voice was clear and bright as jade, neither hurried nor slow. I turned around and saw the second Prince Lu Xuanhe. He wore a blue brocade robe, a jade belt at his waist, with features like a painting, truly very handsome. But I'm not someone who acts on looks. Whether he's handsome or not has nothing to do with me, yet that fleeting flash of astonishment in my eyes was still captured by him. Lu Xuanhe frowned slightly, his gaze sweeping over my face, then turning away with a look of disgust. I seized the moment to say, Madam, I have a favor to ask. The madam was anxious to get rid of me, so that Song Ruoshua could speak with the second prince. Upon hearing this, she became impatient. Is there something you absolutely have to say right now? Madam, I want to take Amo back to the countryside. She was taken aback. Go back. Song Ruoshua was also a bit surprised. Miss Song's wedding is coming up soon. I can't be of much help here, and it'd be bad if I just got in the way. Besides, my chickens, ducks, and geese are still at home. I'm afraid if no one feeds them, they'll starve. Bullet screen. The supporting female character is leaving, didn't she see the male lead? She was even stunned by him just now, playing hard to get her. She wants to force Marchioness who to keep her, to make her choose between her biological daughter and her adopted one, then she's overthinking it. When Marchioness who heard she wanted to leave, she was relieved. Marchioness who did indeed breathe a sigh of relief. You're leaving, in that case, you should head back first, once everything is settled. I'll send someone to bring you back. I nodded. All right, this Marquis's residence has been stifling for me anyway. Wherever I go, the maids block my way, saying I can't go here. Can't go there, guard against me as if I were a thief. After hearing that I planned to leave, the master sent someone to bring 1,000 taels of silver. The young servant, with both hands cupped around the silver notes, handed them over with great respect, saying that the master was busy with official duties and truly could not spare the time, and specially ordered him to deliver this allowance for us 2 women on the road. 1,000 taels, how extravagant, I said to the little valet. Gratefully, when I run out later, can I ask his lordship for more? He looked at me with an expression that defied words. 5. I tucked the silver notes into my sleeve and pinched Amo's cheek. Amo, your mother's struck it rich. I'll take you out for something delicious. Before he could react, I grabbed his wrist and headed straight for the restaurant. I ordered a whole table full of dishes, and Amo ate with his cheeks puffed out, but the way he ate was very refined, rules carved into his bones. You could tell at a glance. After eating, I didn't go look for the carriage out of town. Instead I tugged Amo into an alley, found a tooth doctor, and began inspecting the residence. Amo finally couldn't hold it in, tugging at my sleeve. Mother, aren't we going back to the countryside? I raised my hand and knocked his forehead. Are you stupid? Mother has money now, what would we go back to the countryside for? He held his forehead, his eyes wide and round. Barrage, the supporting female character indeed cannot bear the prosperity of the capital, does she want to stay and continue to pester the male lead? Indeed, sly, no, you have money now, why not buy a house in the city? Why would the female supporting character go to the countryside? I ignored the barrage of comments and, following the toothman, inspected 3 houses, finally choosing a modest courtyard in the south of the city. The courtyard faces south and gets good light. Most important, there's a peach tree in the yard, its branches already bearing small green fruits. Perfect, I can eat peaches when I go back. I was extremely pleased. The day we moved into the new house, Amo ran all around inside and out several times, feeling every corner. I went to the cloth shop and tore off a few bolts of fabric to make him several new sets of clothes. He wore his new clothes full of joy, then suddenly rushed over and hugged my waist, burying his face in my arms. Mother, you are so good. I patted his head. All right. Stop talking nonsense. Help me make the bed, or else you'll be sleeping on the floor tonight. He let out a soft released me, and obediently went to fetch the blanket. 6. The days passed one by one like this. After spending a long time with Amo, I realized he was so well behaved it made my heart ache. He never picky about his meals, never kicks off the blanket when he sleeps. Whatever I do, he stays quietly by the side watching. When he occasionally wants to help, afraid of making things worse, he carefully stands aside and passes things over. He is clever, sensible, has nice features, and when he smiles there are dimples. Sometimes I wonder how a child who is so cute, well-behaved, intelligent, and good-looking could be the kind of rebellious son people in the barrage talk about. Is he afraid that Sergi is that kind of rebellious father? I found a school for Amo, right at the corner of the alley. The master is an old scholar with graying hair. His learning isn't particularly great, but he is patient. Amo attended classes for 3 days, and the master came to me specifically, saying this child is gifted, has a photographic memory, and is a good seed for reading. I was very pleased to hear that and gave the master 2 more strings of silver as a gift money. On ordinary days, I just do some needlework to sell. After 20 years in the countryside, I haven't picked up any other skills, but I've honed an excellent hand at women's handiwork. The flowers I embroider can draw butterflies, and the birds I stitch can make people think they're real. When the proprietress of the embroidery shop saw my work, she signed a long-term contract with me without a word, offering a price noticeably higher than the market rate. Life in the city is much better than in the countryside. 7. The barrage floats by from time to time, talking about Song Ruoshua. The female lead was again harassed by the Empress today, saying her etiquette wasn't good enough, so she knelt in front of the Emperor for an hour. The male lead stood up for her in front of the Empress and said, Ruo Shuer is my fiancé, who dares to bully her is bullying me, tsk tsk tsk, so sweet it's deadly. Lu Xuanhe's biological mother was a palace servant who disappeared after giving birth to him. The Empress had damaged her health early on and was unable to bear children, so she took him in and raised him. Is it really good for him to always oppose the Empress like this? No wonder the Empress doesn't like Song. Ruo Shuer, the position she reserved for her own niece was seized by a fake daughter. Of course she wouldn't be happy. I finished reading those bullet comments. When it's time to embroider, embroider. When it's time to cook, cook. Other people's festivities have nothing to do with me. Only once, after coming home from school, Amo suddenly asked, Mother, do you still want to marry someone? I was puzzled. Why do you ask this all of a sudden? He kept his head down, kicking at the small stones on the ground with his foot. It's nothing, it's just, someone at school said I don't have a father, that I'm a wild child. I pulled him in front of me and kissed his cheek. Amo, listen to me. You have a mother, you have a family. Whether your father is around or not isn't that important. He pressed his lips together, his eye sockets reddening for a moment, and he held back again. Then, Mother, will you stay with me forever? You're my son. If I don't stay with you, who would I stay with? Only then did he smile. 8 That day, a new neighbor moved in next door. Quite a commotion. Several carriages were parked at the alley entrance, with movers going in and out. This kind of display isn't like an ordinary household. I didn't look for long. I turned back into the courtyard and continued embroidering my flowers. Not long after, someone knocked on the courtyard gate. A man stood outside, tall and lean. His features were stern but handsome, and he carried an imposing air. He held a box of pastries in his hand and, surprisingly, adopted a polite demeanor. Good day, miss. I'm the new neighbor who just moved in next door. A small gift, please look after me in the future. I was just about to reach out and take it when the barrage suddenly flashed across the screen. Wait, he's the villain Xie, he was saved by the female lead before. Shouldn't he be looking for her to repay the favor? Why did he end up living next door to the supporting female character? Maybe he's looking for that rebellious runaway son. Yesterday the villain stopped Amo at the mouth of the alley and said he wanted to take him back. In the end, Amo picked up a stone and smashed it against his forehead, cursing, Old man, stay away from me. He also said that from now on he has a mother and doesn't want this father. Amo got his memory back. My fingers stiffened slightly. Xie, his Amo's father. Has Amo recovered his memory too? I forced down the surge of emotions in my chest and accepted the box of pastries without changing my expression. Thank you. From now on, let's look out for each other as neighbors. Xie's gaze passed over my shoulder and swept the courtyard, as if searching for something. Just then, hurried footsteps came from the mouth of the alley. Amo had finished school. The moment he saw Xie, his expression changed sharply. In 3 quick strides he raced in front of me, spreading his arms to block me behind him. Mother, this person has bad intentions. Stay away from him. I was stunned for a moment. Nothing's wrong. He's just here to deliver something. The new neighbor next door. New neighbor, stay away from my mom. I'm warning you. If you dare come to the door again, I'll tell my dad to beat you to death. Xie stopped in his tracks, looked down at Amo, teeth bared. Your dad? Amo puffed out his chest, wearing a "you're finished" expression. Of course. My dad is fierce. I'm afraid he'll crawl out. No. Come out and scare you to death. Don't sleep too soundly tonight. I stood beside them, and the more I listened, the more off it sounded. Climb out. Xie's expression also turned a bit strange. The two of them shot each other a glare and turned their heads away. 9. Once Xie's figure disappeared behind the gate of the neighboring courtyard, I pulled Amo into the yard and shut the door. Amo, isn't your father dead? Amo blinked and said with righteous confidence, yeah, so I told him not to sleep too soundly at night. My dad will crawl out of the coffin and scare him to death. Since Xie moved in next door, this alley has not been quiet. On the first day, he even burned his own kitchen. Thick smoke was billowing out from the neighboring yard. I thought there was a fire, grabbed a bucket, and rushed over to help. only to see him standing in front of a ransacked stove, expressionless as he stared at a pot that had been burned through. The next day, his things started falling into my yard, first a shoe, then a bucket, then a quilt. How could someone be dropping these inexplicable things? By the third day, he was knocking on the door 3 times a day, once in the morning, to borrow salt, once at noon, to borrow soy sauce, once in the evening, to borrow eggs. Every time he picks when Amo isn't around. I don't know what Sieji is trying to do. If he wants his son back, then just ask for him. As long as the price is right and Amo is willing, it's not that I can't discuss it. After all, this child wasn't mine to begin with. Even though I've grown attached, there are things that must be clearly explained. Yet he never mentions Amo at all, just borrows condiments every day. I remember the day we moved, his yard was full of people coming and going, from 10 or so servants, and moving the furniture alone took almost half an hour. So why is everyone gone now? That day he came knocking again, with streaks of black and white across his face, like he'd just been rummaging through stove ash. I couldn't hold back and asked, "Don't you have any servants at your house?" Sieji replied calmly, "I'm not used to having too many strangers at home." Bullet comments, "What is the villain pretending to be, does this son actually want it or not? Why is he staying with the supporting female lead and not leaving?" My mouth quivered, and before I could speak, he drew out a 100 taels silver bill from his sleeve and held it out to me. "Girl Jilan, can I eat here? I won't cook. 100 taels, enough for me and our Mo to eat at a restaurant for most of the year." But I restrained my hand. "You can invite servants, or go to the tavern." Sieji's hand froze in midair, seemingly not expecting my refusal. The atmosphere became a bit awkward at that moment. His stomach let out a loud growl. I heard it all. Sieji Shin reluctantly withdrew the banknote and turned to leave. Before he could take 2 steps, he toppled and fell straight to the ground. I was startled. Scamming someone with a fake injury, gently kicked with his foot. No reaction. He crouched down to push him. He had already fainted, his lips pale to the point of being frightening, a thin layer of sweat on his brow. I used all my strength to drag him into the house, then ran out to fetch a doctor. The doctor took his pulse, twirled his beard, and said in a tone of disbelief, "This young sir fainted from hunger." Fainted from hunger. I thought I'd misheard. At least 2 days without eating much. Wait, he has money, yet he still managed to starve himself unconscious. Danmaku, 10. I was lost in thought. When the courtyard gate was pushed open, Amo came back, and as soon as he walked in, he saw someone lying on the bed and jumped up. "Tell him to come down." He rushed over, grabbed Sieji's sleeve, and yanked downward. His little face flushed bright red. "This is my and my mom's bed. He's not allowed to sleep here." Sieji swayed from the tugging and slowly came to, giving a dry cough. Dizzy, I hurriedly stopped Amo. Don't pull, he's sick, let him lie down for a while." Amo let go, stood by the bed with his hands on his hips, glaring angrily at Sieji. "I've long seen your scheming face, with ill intentions. Mom, don't pick up random men on the roadside, or you'll be deceived." Sieji, "Daughter, our family is already very poor, we can't afford to support anyone else. Think about it, rice costs money, flour costs money, meat costs money. He is such a big person, how much does he need to eat, anyway? We can't afford to support him." Sieji lay on the bed and glanced at Amo, as if looking at a white-eyed wolf. He'd raised himself. He took out a 100 taels silver note from his sleeve again. "Miss Jilan, could I eat here at your place from now on?" I looked at that silver note and finally voiced the doubt in my heart. "You have money, so why did you starve yourself until you fainted?" He fell silent for a moment, as if weighing his words. "I'm a picky eater." The barrage suddenly understood. The villain's pickiness has reached a realm. This is true. He used to fast himself into fainting. I remember there was a plot where Sieji was imprisoned in a dungeon by his enemies as a child, not eating, and before his father could come to redeem him, he nearly starved to death. So he really can't cook, and also looks down on food made by others. Then he must be incredibly patient. Fainted from hunger but wouldn't take a bite. I took that banknote. What I did may not suit your taste, but there will be no refunds. Amo exploded in anger. "Mom, do you really want him to come eat? Who is he, that you'd let him in? What if he's a bad guy? What if he wants to steal something?" What if? I patted Amo's head. It's okay, Amo will protect you. Mom, in the city, everything costs money besides. Xieji is Amo's biological father. Taking this money doesn't burn your hands. Just treat it as child support. Amo opened his mouth, then swallowed the rest of his words. His gaze fell on Xieji and he glared viciously. If you dare say my mother's cooking is not tasty, I will eat everything. Won't leave you anything to eat. Xieji lay on the bed, looking pale, weakly curving the corner of his mouth. Okay, 11 that evening, he was sitting at my dining table. Amo sat opposite him, gripping her chopsticks tightly, as if ready to jab him with them at any moment. I made 3 dishes and a soup, stir-fried seasonal vegetables, braised tofu, a small plate of marinated meat, paired with a steaming bowl of egg drop soup. Xie held up the bowl and took a bite of rice. I watched him nervously. After all, this is someone who is so picky he can starve himself to the point of fainting. He took another bite of the dish, then one after another, eating very quickly. After finishing the bowl of rice, he set down his chopsticks and said a sentence. Delicious. Amo was stunned. Delicious is the highest praise a villain can give. The last time the emperor hosted a banquet, he said it was barely edible. Barrage. Amo's eyes were about to pop out. Is the supporting actress's cooking really that good? I really want to try a bite. 2. I didn't think much of it and gathered the dishes to wash. After that day, Xieji started showing up at my door right on time for meals. At first, he only ate later. I don't know when it started. He would come early, roll up his sleeves, and help me pick vegetables. He looked terribly clumsy. He'd strip away half a bunch of greens. My heart ached with every gasp, but seeing how serious and focused he was, I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Later still, he started fixing things up. The kitchen window wouldn't close properly, so he found a few planks and nailed them into place. The roof is leaking, so he climbed up to re-tile it. Grass has grown under that peach tree, and he can squat there pulling it out for half a day. Although Amo dislikes him, his verbal tricks can't keep up with the speed of grabbing vegetables with his hands. When the two of them eat, it's like a battle. A plate of braised pork is served, and 2 pairs of chopsticks stretch out at the same time. No one willing to yield. I'm stuck in the middle, quietly eating the rice in my own bowl, but if there's only one chicken leg left, the 2 of them will instinctively slide the leg into my bowl. One says, Mom, you eat, you've lost weight lately. Another one said, Jilan, you're too thin, eat more. After speaking, the 2 looked at each other, then at the same time turned away, snorting softly through their noses. I pretended not to see their private little actions. For example, Amo secretly swapped Xieji's teacup for a chipped old one, and smeared a bit of honey on the chair where Xieji sat. When Xieji stood up, his pants stuck to the chair and he pulled at it several times before it finally came off. He was not about to be outdone either. That plate of Osmanthus cake that Imor loves the most, he always grabs the last piece every time and slowly finishes it in front of Imor. He even said that his handwriting looked like a dog's crawl. Once I came out carrying the dishes, I heard 2 people shouting at each other in the courtyard. Amo put his hands on his hips. You old ghost, full of wrinkles and still wanting to eat tender grass. Many of my schoolmates have older brothers who are younger than you and better looking than you. Xieji rolled up his sleeves. Brat, come back with me, or I'll beat your backside to pieces. If you won't give me a mother, can't I find one for myself? If you want a wife, go find one yourself. Why must you snatch mine? I almost dropped the plate. What are these 2 doing? The villain likes the supporting female character. 12. Barrage. Impossible. He likes the female lead. When the villain was a child, he got lost in the mountains, rolled down a slope and broke his leg, and it was the female lead who rescued him, upstairs. That's because the villain blocked the road. The female lead's carriage couldn't pass and dragged him to the roadside. You call that a rescue? If it weren't for a kind mother and daughter passing by who fed him some water and reported to the authorities, the villain would have almost kicked the bucket. Report to the authorities. A fragment of memory surfaced in my mind. When I was a child, I went to town with my foster mother to sell eggs. On the way back, we saw an unconscious little boy by the mountain path. He was dressed in brocade clothes, covered in mud, with blood on his leg. I was too scared to go near him. It was my mother who crouched down and felt for his breath, saying he was still alive. I gave him a few sips of water. He groggily opened his eyes, glanced at me, and then passed out again. My mother walked with me for several li, found the nearest official post, and reported it to the authorities. Later the officials came and took the boy away. My mother said that the child was dressed unusually well, surely a son of a wealthy family, so it was better to have the authorities rescue him than for us to do it ourselves. Could it be, Xieji is that boy? I shook my head and pushed the thought away. Impossible, there's no way things are that coincidental. At night, Amo was kept awake by mosquito bites, tossing and turning restlessly in bed. 13. I picked up a palm fan and sat by the bed fanning away the mosquitoes for him. Mother, that old ghost stole a bite of my osmanthus cake again today. Tomorrow I'll make you another one. He also said that my handwriting is ugly, then you practice well, and show him once you've perfected it. Amuo snorted, not saying a word. I hit him one by one, and his breathing gradually steadied. His eyes closed. Just then, there was a slight rustling from the window side. Oh no, the villain's enemy has shown up and plans to grab Amo to threaten the villain. Barrage. All the blood in my body rushed to my head. I dropped the palm leaf fan and scooped up the just asleep Amo. He let out a drowsy I covered his mouth and shoved him under the bed. The sheet hung down, just blocking his silhouette. Don't make a sound. Amo's eyes widened at once, filled with fear. He gritted his teeth and nodded. I stood up, took a deep breath, burst out the door, and shouted at the top of my lungs, "Somebody, catch the thief!" In the darkness, a hand reached from behind and was about to cover my mouth when a figure dropped from the sky and sent the person flying with a kick. More people surged out in the moonlight. Xieji stood in front of me, and at some point a short blade had appeared in his hand. Clashing blades and flashing steel, he struck with lightning speed, forcing those people to retreat step by step. Someone lunged from the side, and Xieji swept me into his arms. Turning to shield me, he took a knife square in the back. I heard him grunt, but his arm only tightened around me. Only after everyone had been driven off did he finally let me go. My legs were so weak I couldn't stand, and he grabbed me again. Mother! Amo crawled out from under the bed, ran over barefoot, threw himself into my arms, and sobbed so hard he couldn't catch his breath. Mother, are you okay? Are you okay? I held him, my hand still trembling, but I said, "It's fine, Mom's fine." Amo lifted his head from my arms, saw Xieji, lunged forward, and with all his strength shoved him. "It's all your fault. It's all your fault for bringing bad people here. You almost killed Mom." Xieji staggered back a step from the shove, stood there, and didn't say anything. He lowered his eyes and spoke in a very soft voice. "I'm sorry." Xieji left. At the moment the hospital door closed, I stood there, a strange tightness in my chest. "Amo, he's injured. That slash just now, I took it for your mother." Amo's eyes instantly reddened, and tears pattered down. I didn't know." He turned and ran outside. By the time I caught up, Amo had already pushed open the gate of the neighboring courtyard. The room was pitch dark, and a figure lay sprawled on the floor. Xieji lay on the cold ground, the wound on his back still oozing blood. He had already passed out. "Father!" Amo rushed over, bursting into loud, terrified sobs. "Dad, wake up, don't die. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scold you." I hurried forward and, together with Amo, dragged him onto the bed. Amo's hands kept trembling, tears streaming down his face as he cried and shouted, "Dad, don't die. I won't scold you anymore. I won't let the dad in the coffin scare you anymore. You're my dad, don't die. I just found Mom. I can't be without Dad. You want a wife? I'll give you half a mother instead." Oh no, Amo just spilled everything. Barrage. The kid's really terrified. He even called out for his dad, "If the female side character finds out he lied to her, she'll definitely be angry, but she doesn't seem very angry." Amo was halfway through crying when something suddenly occurred to him. He whipped around to look at me, panic and guilt filling his eyes. 14. "I'll go call a doctor for your father." He nervously tugged at the hem of my clothes. "Mother, will you come back?" I looked at that tear-streaked face and reached out to wipe his tears. "I will." The doctor came, examined the wound, and said the cut had penetrated half an inch into the flesh and almost reached the bone. He'd lost a lot of blood and needed proper care. He couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. After everyone left, Amo sat on the chair by the bed, staring at me the whole time, afraid I might disappear. Xieji finally woke up. Jilan, why are you here? Was it you who saved me? When I recover, I will surely repay you the debt of saving my life with my own body. Thank you. Amo cast a guilty glance at him and said dryly, Father, Mother know about it. Xieji, you already know everything. When you're better, take Amo away. I nodded. Amo's tears welled up again. Don't go, I won't go. He pounced on me, wrapping his arms around my waist, begging, it was all my fault. I deceived my mother. My head was muddled after I fell and hit my head at that time. Someone said they could lead me to my mother, so I followed. I thought you really were my mother, then I remembered, so my mother had already died, but you really look like my mother. No, you are my mother. Xiaohu bot document watermarking and anti-theft, for finding books. Choose, stable and reliable heavy checkmark # no pitfalls. Xieji turned his face away. His Adam's apple moved. I looked down at Amo, his tears soaking a large patch of my clothes. It's nothing, if you miss me, you can come and see me. Amo cried so hard he couldn't speak, crying in my arms. Until his voice faded away, he fell asleep, his eyes still swollen, tears clinging to his eyelashes. I carried him to the nearby couch and covered him with a blanket. When I turned around, Xieji was looking at me. Amo didn't lie to you. Me, I know. He paused, then added, I haven't married either, damn. The supporting female character is deceptive too, why did she acknowledge Amo, barrage, is it because she felt pity for Amo, why do I feel like she's avoiding the male lead, it seems. She never said she would marry the male lead. Xieji froze. And after a long while he finally spoke, Amo is actually my eldest brother's child. My eldest brother and sister-in-law died on the frontier. Only Amo survived. I hadn't expected that. I had always thought Amo was his biological son. The live chat was surprised as well. Amu's origin was said to be an adopted child, but I didn't expect that he is the child of the villain who died so young. Xieji's gaze fell on the sleeping Amu. Filled with distress, Amu likes you, if he wants to stay. Can you? It was me who forced it. You are not yet married, keeping Amu to raise. How can you marry? But if you're willing, I can, be your. My face was already burning red. The barrage started chattering again, and I pretended not to see it. Lowering my head to tidy the medicine box, my fingers a little uncooperative. He didn't finish. I don't have any plans to marry anytime soon. Xieji let out a disappointed sigh. In the days that followed, Xieji stayed in bed to recover, and I went over every day to change his dressing. The wound was on his back, which he couldn't reach himself, and Amo was too small, so I had to do it. 15 When I changed the dressing for the first time, I asked him to take off his shirt. His movements were quick. He looked a bit impatient. The instant the clothes came off, my mind went boom, and I was completely stunned. Broad shoulders and back, a narrow waist, muscles with smooth lines so good-looking that one glance makes your throat go dry. The barrage went wild. That back, does this body actually exist? I'm drooling, supporting actress. Don't let your hands shake. Apply the medicine steadily, if I were the supporting female character, I could last an hour with this medicine. I took a deep breath, steadied my hand, and spread the wound powder evenly over the injury. His muscles tensed, but he made no sound. With every subsequent dressing change, the barrage of comments never let up. Today is another day of admiring the supporting female lead. Do you think the supporting female lead really doesn't get moved? We see this every day. Her ears are red when she blushes. Didn't you see? Every time she applies medicine, her ears turn red. My ears aren't red at all. I went back that day and had a dream that night. In the dream, his hand gripped my waist, pressing me beneath him, his searing chest against mine. He took my hand, guiding me inch by inch over those broad shoulders, the firm back, finally coming to rest on his chest. I tried to pull away, but he wouldn't let me. When I woke up, my heart was pounding like a drum, and it took quite a while to finally calm down. Amo was already awake, lying on the bed with his chin propped in his hands, watching me. Mother, your face is so red. It's the heat. Then I'll fan you. After Xieji recovered from his injury, he said he would be leaving for a while. He didn't say where he was going, and I didn't ask. 16 Only when he entrusted Amo to me did he rarely hesitate, as if he wanted to say something but swallowed it back. Go ahead, Amo is with me, he won't get lost. Jilan, wait for me to come back. I keep feeling like something's off. Shouldn't he have told Amo to wait for him to come back? Why did he tell me instead? He glanced at me. Amo waved excitedly. Dad, you go, I can take care of Mom, you just don't come back. Xieji, life goes on as usual. Bullet comments drift by from time to time, without the second female lead stirring up trouble on the heroine's side. There's a lot less satisfaction. The Empress's niece discovered that Song Ruoshua was a fake heiress, shut the door and gave her a beating. The Empress had already disagreed with the second prince marrying her, and this time she happened to seize the opportunity to make a point. What's even more shocking is that the Empress Dowager outright adopts a 13th prince who has no mother consort, making it clear that she intends to replace the person being supported. The second prince has no choice but to agree to marry the Empress's niece as the principal wife, with Song Ruoshua as a concubine. The legitimate wife exchanges a concubine. Song Ruoshua had waited so long for the marriage, but in the end it could be overturned with a single sentence. Song Ruoshua does not agree, saying that after waiting for the second prince for so many years, he betrayed her. Then, he actually stabbed the second prince. Oh my goodness, is Song Ruoshua crazy? The emperor is furious, and the marriage between the second prince and Song Ruoshua is completely doomed. The Hu family sent Song Ruoshua to a separate villa overnight, fearing it would implicate themselves. Why did my designated partner break up with me on their own? Early the next morning, people from the Hu family arrived. The lord and lady of the Hu household personally came to the door, bringing a pile of silk and satin, nearly breaking the threshold of my small courtyard. The neighbors all poked their heads out to watch the commotion. The Marquis stood in the courtyard, looking around, his brows knotted so tightly they could pinch a mosquito to death. Jilan, have you been living in a place like this all this time? I didn't answer. I just drew Amo a little closer to me. Madam Hu, however, wore a face full of smiles and came forward to take my hand. Jilan, your mother has investigated. You didn't get married. It was this boy who slandered you. You injured your head, that's why you were deceived. Amo barred my way, baring his teeth. Don't touch my mother. Her smile stiffened for a moment. This is not your mother, you rascal rogue. How dare you slyly wangle for sympathy? Me. He did not falsely accuse me. The Duke spoke in a low voice. Jilan, we have investigated clearly. You did not wed. You did not bear a child. This child has nothing to do with you. Then why didn't you check earlier or later? And now you only found out. His lips moved but he did not utter a word. Lady Hu's expression changed slightly. She forced a smile and said, Jilan, what are you saying? We're just worried about you, because Song Ruoshua stabbed the second prince. All the bets the Marquis's residents had placed on him were ruined. Now they want to send the supporting female to the third prince and place a new bet, how pitiful. Whether it's the female lead or the supporting female, they're nothing but tools for profit. Barrage. The moment they saw the female lead was ruined, they turned around and tried to use the supporting female. Me, I'm not going back. The Marquis's expression darkened. We are your biological parents. If you don't go back, are you going to stay here and let others raise your child? Amo suddenly shouted toward the people behind them. Father, their fierce Ma. Xieji stood there in a dark robe, dust-covered from travel. No one knew when he had returned or how long he had been standing outside. 17. His gaze stayed glued to my face, then finally turned to the Marquis, and he asked bluntly, are you going to let my son's wife remarry? The villain is mighty. My son's wife. Why isn't she calling me wife too? It's all unofficial and unremarkable. Barrage. The Lord's face turned green, laughed to death. You want the supporting female lead to marry the third prince? Did you ask the Frianesi prince? He's the emperor's favorite 18th brother. The Marquis's face went green, his lips trembling for a long while. Free and easy prince. Xieji walked over, bent down and picked Amo up. Amo took the chance to complain, her little mouth chattering. Father, they're bullying mother, calling me a scoundrel and a rascal. I'm a petty rascal. So you're the big rascal. I heard it. The Marquis hastily waved his hand, forcing a smile uglier than crying. Wang Ye has misunderstood. We don't know that the young master's father is you. Your Highness, since we're all family, Gilan, why didn't you say so earlier? The Marchioness also smiled ingratiatingly and moved closer. Gilan, we won't object to your matter with His Highness. Look at you, still keeping it from us. I looked at how quickly their expressions had flipped, faster than turning a page, and replied lightly, we didn't get married. Their smiles froze on their faces at the same time. Didn't get married, Madam, whose eyes darted, and she blurted out, isn't that a mistress? This, Siege glanced at her, Gilan just hasn't agreed to marry me yet. I glared at him, the Marquis's eyes lit up. And he was about to urge me to go back. I didn't give him the chance. I stepped aside and said to Siege, do you want to come in? Siege, holding Emo in his arms, lifted his foot and walked straight in. I followed him in and shut the door behind me with a flick of my wrist, a loud bang. The Marquis and the Madam outside, who were trying to come in as well, almost ran into the door. Emo rolled off Siege, scrambled to his feet in the courtyard, and shuffled awkwardly. Dad, you made it back. Just in time this time, otherwise Mother will be bullied. Actually, not really, I never cared about them to begin with, Siege mocked with sarcasm. I told you to protect your mother, but you want your mother to protect you too. It's useless. Emo's face turned beet red with anger, his lips pouting so much you could hang an oil bottle on them. Why you're useless too? You've been gone for days and still didn't come back. I was on the road, then couldn't you hurry up? Shut up, I stood to the side, watching this father and son quarrel, the corners of my mouth unconsciously tilting a little. Siege drew a stack of banknotes from his sleeve and handed them to me. We'll trouble you for a while longer, he said, his gaze settling on my face, his voice unintentionally softening a bit. I won't be leaving anytime soon. I looked at his face, and my heartbeat suddenly quickened a few beats. It must be because of the banknotes. The villain finished dealing with his enemies, but rushed back the entire way, saying he entrusted things to the supporting actress, yet he came back in less than 2 days after leaving. Villain, are you reassured or not? Barrage, don't ask anymore, because I just can't let it go. Emo's eyes darted, and suddenly one hand grabbed Siege's hand, and the other hand grabbed mine, bringing our 2 hands together. Wonderful, now I have a dad and a mom. Siege lowered his head to take a quick look, the corner of his mouth quietly hooked, then he quickly pressed it down again, as if afraid I would notice. I pretended not to notice anything, casually pulled my hand back, and turned to walk toward the kitchen. What are we having tonight? Siege asked from behind. I'll help you cook. Maybe I should do it instead. Me, what should I do if you burn down my kitchen? Emo moaning. Father, please, I still want to have dinner. Epilogue. The second time the Marquis visited, he brought many things. 18. Gilan, your father and mother have come to see you about what happened last time. I was in the wrong. I've thought it over for many days. You're my own flesh and blood. How could I let you suffer out here? Come back with me. Everything in the Marquis's household rightfully belongs to you. His gaze passed over me and swept the courtyard, as if searching for someone. My lord, I'm living here quite well. There's no need for me to return. I didn't say anything. The lord's expression turned somewhat unpleasant. Madam, who hurried up, shoving things into my hands. Gilan, don't speak in fits of anger. Mother knows you feel wronged, but after all we are flesh and blood related. Breaking bones still connects the sinews. I didn't want to listen to their nonsense, so I turned around and directly went inside to close the door. Is the Marquis genuinely remorseful? Remorse, my foot. He heard that Prince Xiaoyaro is staying with the female supporting character and just wants to cling to the prince. Barrage, the bet the Marquis's household placed on the second prince is bust, and they can't connect with the third prince either. Now they can only pin their hopes on the female supporting character, counting on her to marry Prince Xiaoyaro so the Marquis's household can bask in the reflected glory. What a lovely dream. I didn't pay any attention to it, but Siege clearly did. When the Marquis paid his third visit, he didn't even get close to the door. A few guards in plain clothes had appeared at the mouth of the alley, politely stopping the Marquis's carriage outside. The Marquis stood at the mouth of the alley for half an hour, then went back with a thunderous expression. Not long after that, the barrage suddenly burst into chatter. Big news. The Marquis's residence has been investigated, embezzlement and bribery, involving a huge amount, with conclusive evidence. His Majesty is furious. Goodness. The villain just wiped out the entire Marquis's household in one go, after the Empress switched to supporting the 13th Prince. Those who used to back the male lead started ignoring him. They should have thought about it. Those were the Empress's natal family's forces to begin with. The Marquis is still crying in prison, saying that if he'd known, he wouldn't have messed with the female supporting character. He didn't mess with the female supporting character, he messed with his own rotten debts. That evening, when Siege came over for dinner, I put a chicken leg in his bowl he delighted in. Deliberately showing off for Amo to see, Amo silently parted the rice. At the bottom of the bowl were 2 chicken drumsticks. Siege wore a dark expression. After dinner, he washed my bowl, then came over to ask me, Gilan, why don't you move into my residence? I can protect you, me, if I move in. Under what pretext? A rare hint of nervousness appeared on his face. Marry me, and become the mistress of the prince's residence. I hadn't even had a chance to speak when Amo sidled over and whispered, Mother, if you don't like it, I have lots of male classmates. They're much fresher than my father. Siege ground his teeth. Shut your mouth, I didn't say anything wrong. The two of them started chasing each other again.